Now, on 105.9 FM and streaming worldwide on the WMAL app. O'Connor and Company.
And it's 7:07 now as we venture into the second half of this morning's extravaganza. If you missed anything from 5 a.m. till now, please subscribe to our podcast so you don't miss a thing. It's like a radio show, but it's on a podcast. We put it up a few hours after every program, and it's worth your subscription. Coming up in 30 minutes, we'll talk to the governor of West Virginia, Patrick Morrissey. And then at 8:05, we'll speak with General Jack Keane. I'm Larry O'Connor alongside Julie Gunlock. Morning, Julie.
Good morning.
We've got Joe diGenova, legal analyst, former U.S. attorney to the District of Columbia, and we'll get the latest from him now. Good morning, Joe.
Good morning, Larry.
Well, I'm going to pretend like I'm confused because I don't quite understand how the New York Times read the exact same declassified report that I read that showed that Mr. Durham, the special investigator into the Russiagate scandal, seemed to have traced back the origins of the Steele dossier and the entire hoax to the Clinton campaign trying to distract from their email scandal, so they concocted a plan to tie Trump to the Russians. Now, I thought that was common knowledge, and the fact that there is actual emails between Debbie Wasserman Schultz and apparently somebody who worked for the Soros Foundation certainly amps up the drama here and the premeditation of this thing. But the New York Times, Joe, says that that's all fake, that the Russians created all of those emails.
Well, let's remember, Larry, the New York Times got a Pulitzer for reporting false information. So the standard has now been set. So in order to keep the Pulitzer, at least in their own eyes, they have to continue the fantasy. And so that's where we are. This is a continuation of the same lie that led to the incredible abuse of the civil rights of Donald Trump and people around him. And it's all coming to an end, and they're having great difficulty dealing with it in New York.
And it seems like independent journalists like Michael Smerconish, good God forbid, Michael Schellenberger and Matt Taibbi, they've looked at the same information, and of course they reach a different conclusion. Matt Taibbi puts it this way. He says, but Russiagate was a cover-up, pure and simple. Hillary Clinton and her team wanted to deflect from the email scandal. They tied Trump to Putin, and American security services learned of those plans, by the way, briefed Obama on them after they had learned about them, and then finally, after Trump won, they basically created this intelligence community assessment and the continued investigation into Trump to sort of bury this whole thing and to continue the hoax. Is that, I mean, it's that pure and simple, isn't it?
Absolutely, and categorically it's that simple. Crimes were committed by senior government officials against Donald Trump and people associated with Donald Trump. There simply isn't any doubt about that any longer. Now, the New York Times and the Washington Post may not want to admit that, but it's no longer up to them. It's now going to be up to a federal grand jury somewhere in the United States to determine whether crimes were committed, which I believe were committed, and then to determine what they're going to do about it, whether or not they're going to issue a report, which is highly unusual for federal grand juries, or issue some indictments, which I think is the more likely outcome.
When you say a federal grand jury and some indictments, you said somewhere in the United States. I noted over the weekend, Joe, that President Trump, the Senate barely confirmed anybody here before they left town. I think they've left 133 nominees still pending. But one seemed to slip through. The very first U.S. attorney nominated by Donald Trump in this second term, and he happens to be the U.S. attorney in Miami. Do you think that's noteworthy?
I think it's a fascinating irony that the first United States attorney to be confirmed for Donald Trump is the United States attorney who has jurisdiction over Mar-a-Lago. Now, I don't know that Chuck Schumer understood what he was doing when he agreed to confirm Jason Redding Quinones, a Cuban-American descendant, to be the U.S. attorney in Miami. But I can't imagine that Mr. Quinones will not be looking into these matters.
Yeah.
Joe, in addition to that news over the weekend, it turns out that they are now launching an investigation into Jack Smith for violations of the Hatch Act. What are your thoughts on on that investigation? Will it lead to an indictment?
Well, the Office of Special Counsel is, that office that protects the civil rights and of federal employees. It also looks at misconduct by federal employees. In the case of Jack Smith, I don't think there's any doubt that he conducted his investigation in such a way so as to interfere with the federal presidential election. And that would be a clear violation of the Hatch Act, to conduct your office in such a way as to literally take advantage of the presidential election cycle. So I think without question, Mr. Smith is at least guilty of that. Now, he no longer works for the United States government. So the question is, what can the Office of Special Counsel do? Issue some sort of judgment about him, prevent him from having future governmental service? I think what they're likely to do is do all of that, plus turn the information over to the Justice Department for possible prosecution.
Okay.
Well, to examine what Mr. Smith did in investigating Trump in the middle of that campaign, at the direction of Merrick Garland and Joe Biden, by the way, is obviously very important if it was politicized, and it certainly appears to be politicized. Add to that the revelations that multiple members of the first Trump administration apparently were under investigation by Biden's FBI. Dan Scavino has released this information when let me just read what he said. When he started working for the second Trump term, he got a notification from Google that said this. Now, understand, this is January of 2025, right? Google received and responded to a legal process issued by the Federal Bureau of Investigation compelling the release of information related to your Google account. A court order previously prohibited Google from notifying you of the legal process. In other words, when he left the first Trump administration, when Biden took over, the FBI notified Google and basically got a subpoena for all of his activities in his Google account. And of course, the investigation never came to anything. But is this the kind of thing that an innocent American should be able to push back on and find out more information on? What mechanism is there for any of us to find out what the FBI is looking at?
Well, there isn't any until you find out about it later through legal process. That's part of the problem. And when the FBI, under Christopher Wray, was conducting illegal searches of people's cloud services. For example, my wife, Victoria Tunson, got one of those Google notices that she had been spied on in 2019, and then another search warrant in 2021. She had no knowledge of that until she was notified when the search warrants were executed at our house in Chevy Chase, that she had been spied upon in 2019 through that precise type of secret process. Now, make no mistake about it. The FBI is not just a factotum. They don't just sit there and do what they're told. They're allowed to ask questions like, should we be doing this? Is this the right thing? Christopher Wray never did that. And you know what? Christopher Wray is going to pay a price for that, because when they did that, when they issued those warrants for Mr. Scavino and others and Victoria Tunson, they broke the law. They committed federal crimes. They violated the civil rights of every one of those people. And believe me, Christopher Wray is going to find himself in front of a federal grand jury.
Joe, actually, I've got some news about that I want to share with you and get your reaction to. But real fast, and with regard to Victoria Tunson and these other sort of, as you put it, FBI spying on you, the FBI doesn't do that in a vacuum. Don't they have to get a court to approve that kind of surveillance?
That is absolutely correct, and you'll be amazed to listen. Now, listen to this. When they executed the search warrant at our house in Chevy Chase, and when they got the secret stuff in 2019 for the spying on the cloud, they did that to 5 other lawyers at the same time. And every one of those people, every one of those lawyers, including Victoria, had been either representing clients who were involved in the Ukrainian situation, who were looking for information because there had been accusations of corruption about the Bidens. And it was the Bidens who were being protected by the Southern District of New York and Christopher Wray at the FBI. There was a scheme afoot among federal law enforcement officials to bury information about the Biden family and illegality. And in so doing, the FBI and the DOJ under Merrick Garland violated the civil rights not only of my wife, Victoria, but a whole bunch of other people. And in order to get the secret warrants in 2019, you know what they had to swear to a court? that Victoria and all these other lawyers were going to, A, destroy evidence, B, intimidate witnesses, or C, flee the country. Now, any federal judge looking at that affirmation in an affidavit and looks at the lawyers that they're being accused of that in order to get the warrant has to stop the process right there and say, what are you talking about? These are all former senior Justice Department officials. Are you telling me that you're swearing that they're going to destroy evidence, flee the country, or intimidate witnesses? This story is not over, Larry.
Incredible. Well, hold that thought. There's more about Christopher Wray and more going on with our courts and with our deep state news here in Washington.
WMAL, making sense of the news. Live from the Home Paramount Pest Control Studios. Home Paramount, the leader in pest control since 1939.
Joe diGenova is our guest, former U.S. attorney. By the way, real quick note, your successor, in a way, several administrations removed, Judge Jeanine Pirro was confirmed by the Senate, so she is now officially the U.S. attorney for the district. Is there any chance, Joe, that you could take her place on the 5? You'll have to be in the leg chair, of course.
I've never worn a dress before, but, who knows?
Oh, you say that now. Just wait until we get all those emails that have been spied on by Christopher Wray. Joe, for them to be able to execute that sort of sweeping surveillance on an attorney, that's a higher bar, isn't it, for the FBI? Because you're a lawyer working for a client doing their job. I mean, I don't think any American should be spied on, but the very least of which a lawyer who is a officer of the court, you're under different standards with regard to your conduct. I mean, that had to be an extraordinary thing for them to get the ability to surveil you and to spy out, or Victoria, I should say, your wife.
Well, it actually involved not only spying on Victoria, but all of our clients. And in order to protect the client information, we had to hire outside counsel to be in the secret proceedings in New York to represent the interest of us and our clients and object to things that were covered by the attorney-client privilege. That cost us $500,000 to do that, never reimbursed by the United States government. Larry, what happened here happened to General Flynn. It happened to Donald Trump. It happened to us. The federal criminal process was utilized and abused. It was lawfare. It was war against American citizens. It was war against lawyers that didn't agree with the Democrats. It was an outrageous process that involved the violation not only of the rights of the lawyers who were being investigated, but every one of their clients who had to be notified and worry about whether or not their information was going to be compromised. The people in New York, the Southern District of New York, the main justice under Merrick and the FBI under Christopher Wray were responsible for one of the greatest violations of civil rights in the history of the country. Those people should all pay a price. And I hope that eventually there'll be a federal grand jury that will look into all of this. There's never been anything like it in our history. And by the way, the federal judges who signed these warrants should all be investigated by the House of Representatives.
My understanding is that Judge Boasberg of the Washington, D.C. Circuit actually was one of those judges who authorized a lot of these FISA warrants. Is that your understanding as well?
He was a Carter Page guy and was one of the people, by the way, who later, remember, Boasberg was a FISA court judge. He was the chief judge of the FISA court. He was one of the people who was lied to by Sussman, the guy who filed the fake lie about Carter Page with the FISA court. And it was Boasberg himself who actually gave Sussman a pass and gave him probation. Sussman now has his law license back.
Isn't it also, you mentioned all this lawfare against lawyers who defend the administration. They're doing this against Jeff Clark as well right now. The D.C. Bar has actually recommended he be disbarred for defending the administration. What is going on with the D.C. Bar? I mean, I'm sure it's been a mess for decades, but have you ever seen this level of sort of partisanship from the D.C. Bar and abuse?
I've never seen anything like it by bars all over the country. What's been done is a new set of rules have been established for lawyers who represent Republicans or conservatives. Let's make it very clear. Lawyers were representing their client, the President of the United States. They were making arguments in court about what they thought was the best way to defend their client. They were challenging an election, which they have the right to do.
Right.
They had alternate electors at their disposal, not fake electors. These were real electors which had been appointed by the candidate in case the courts ruled his way. He would have electors that could be put in place. And yet these various bar foundations, New York, D.C., found every one of these lawyers had violated ethical rules, and they were disbarred. Ultimately, Congress needs to do something about this. It has general control, for example, over D.C. under Article 1 of the Constitution. Congress may very well want to take control of jurisdiction over the D.C. bar, write rules, and could, by legislation, reinstate all these licenses that have been suspended.
Do you have faith, Joe, real fast, that you said you hope that there's a federal grand jury and an investigation. You hope that Congress does this. You hope is great, and I'm glad you have hope. I try to be optimistic, too. Do you have faith that the team in place right now is taking everything that you just laid out seriously and actually doing something about it?
I do. I have every reason to believe that people are very serious about this. Even though the president has come late to this notion of accountability, he never wanted to go after Hillary because he didn't think that was seemly. He didn't think it would be great to indict the wife of a former president. I think the president has changed his mind, and as a result, his underlings have changed their mind with him.
So you said the wife of an ex-president. Of course, Trump, possibly Freudian slip or not, refers to Hillary as the ex-wife of a president, which is kind of funny, I think. Yeah.
Yes, I misspeak.
Thank you, Joe. Always good to talk to you, sir. We'll see you next week.
Coming up, we're going to talk to West Virginia Governor Patrick Morrissey. He's in town today. He's going to sign some SNAP waivers. They include work requirements and restrict certain things like sugary drinks and ultra-processed foods from being included in SNAP. It's good stuff. Keep it here at 7:30.
WMAL-FM, Woodbridge, Washington, a Cumulus media station. Making sense of the news. News Talk 105.9. News now. On 105.9 FM and streaming worldwide on the WMAL app. O'Connor and Company.
It's 7:37. Coming up at 8:05, we'll talk to General Jack Keane, sending 2 U.S. submarines over in the proximity of Russia as the latest strategic move by the commander-in-chief. We'll get General Keene's assessment of what's up there. It's Larry O'Connor this morning with Julie Gunlock. Good morning, Julie.
Good morning.
We need to be on our best behavior. We have a governor on the line.
Yes.
A neighboring state here to the D.C. area, West Virginia Governor Patrick Morrissey. Good morning, Governor Morrissey.
Hey, good morning. I don't know that me being on means you have to be on best behavior, but we'll try it out.
Yeah, that's what I say. We'll give it a shot. You know, I'm not making promises. You're in town today because you're trying to petition for some waivers for West Virginia with regard to the SNAP program. Can you explain what it is you're actually looking for and how other states like yours are sort of trying to petition some adjustments to this?
Absolutely. So you may recall a couple months ago, Secretary Kennedy came into Martinsburg, West Virginia, part of your listening area, and we were talking about a number of really important initiatives to begin making a difference in the healthcare outcomes of West Virginians. And just to start the framework, many people know West Virginia has unfortunately been at the top of a lot of the bad lists from a healthcare perspective. Diabetes and obesity, very high COPD, many other tough stuff. And so at that announcement, we revealed our 4 pillars of health. And really the goal was try to clean up our food. And that was dealing with the dyes. And there's been a big development since then. Second, for people to find purpose and work, because that was really critical. And you're beginning to see that as well. That encompasses the work requirements piece, both Medicaid and SNAP, to improve your health, which is getting out and walking. And we instituted the Mountaineer Mile, and that's going on all across West Virginia. And people have been doing, so many people are taking charge and doing at least a mile of new walking and activity. And the fourth piece was really to change the nature of SNAP. SNAP, which stands for Supplemental Nutrition Assistance Program, which the N is supposed to stand for nutrition. It's meant to get the sodas and the soda-related drinks out of the diet because that's not helpful in terms of all these healthcare outcomes. So today we're going to D.C. to knock off another pillar. We believe that the department will be approving our SNAP waiver, so very positive.
Governor, I do have questions about this, but I can't take this opportunity. I have to take this opportunity to thank you for standing with women. You worked so closely with independent women to sign the Riley Gaines Act, and I just as a woman who's been working on this issue for a lot of years, I just want to take a moment to thank you for that. And I think that has a lot to do with women's health as well, and girls' health. So thank you so much for standing with women.
Well, I'm grateful, and in fact, they've been a terrific group to work on. It's been a very productive year because we're obviously taking on some of the big challenges in West Virginia economically, but we're also doing some of the basic things, such as recognizing the differences between men and women, and we're going to continue to do that.
Well, it is certainly recognized and appreciated. Thank you so much. But going back to the issue here, while you're in D.C., there are people, just to play devil's advocate, there are people that will say, this is really government pushing people around and telling them what they can eat and what they can't eat. What's your response to? I certainly don't agree with that, but people do say it. How do you respond to these sort of it's big government pushing people around kind of arguments?
Couple things. First, what we're trying to do is promote healthy choices. So the original goal behind the waiver was to not only ensure that taxpayers aren't subsidizing soda, but also to promote healthy choices, chicken, rotisserie, and other types of healthier proteins. And we're working with Department of Ag on the latter piece of that. But I think if you ask the question and say, look, we're not here to judge what people are putting in their grocery cart, but if you have a choice when you're spending taxpayer dollars, it's a very fair point to say we want to spend it on nutritious pieces. That's the whole goal of SNAP, as opposed to these items that are not. You can still go purchase soda with your own money, and no one is prohibiting that. I'm really very strong on ensuring I don't want these prohibitions, but taxpayer subsidization, no taxpayer is entitled to everything that they want. Yeah. And if the taxpayers are going to be funding a program called Supplemental Nutrition Assistance Program, shouldn't the food be nutritious?
Yes, it's funny that you earlier said the N stands for nutrition and the S stands for supplemental, which you just said. And people seem to forget this. This isn't supposed to be all of the food you eat. It's supposed to supplement. So that supplemental piece of it, I agree with you, should certainly be healthy. Sorry, Larry, I know you had a follow-up.
Oh, no worries at all. I think that's the major point here. I think taxpayers, listen, if people have trouble making ends meet, if they're living below the poverty line, they need to be able to feed their kids, and they can't for one reason or another. Yes, we are incredibly generous. We're charitable as a nation. This program exists. But if it exists and we're paying for it, I think it's reasonable to suggest that you don't take that money and buy a bunch of junk that ends up, by the way, making you less healthy, and then we're going to have to pay for your health care as well. I'm glad that you're taking a stand. Why is this not normal? Why doesn't every governor do this?
I think you're beginning to see it because you have a partner in the Trump administration and RFK and Brooke Rollins who are eager to make this happen. So I think that this comes back to that MAHA movement, and you're seeing a lot of strength behind it because people are tired of America spending so much money, number one, in terms of healthcare expenditures, and they're not getting the outcomes. And that's what I'm focusing on in West Virginia. I want to move the needle. I'm tired of all the rhetoric of chest pounding. We're doing great, but we're not moving the needle. Let's move the needle. And one of the ways you move the needle is you start to affect the foods that you eat, your activities. And look, I've been very clear. It's not that I'm perfect. I'm far from it. And I know that, people say, what can you do about it? Well, you can try to lead by example, and you can try to do a little bit better. And that's what we're trying to do in West Virginia with our exercising, with our work requirements to try to find purpose in the life, but also to stand for nutrition, not to subsidize all this crap.
Thank you, Governor. Appreciate you joining us, and thanks for letting everybody know that that's what's going on in West Virginia. We hope that the governors here locally will follow suit as well. Thank you, sir.
Amen. Well, thanks so much. I hear the country roads. I love that.
Yeah.
Yeah, it is kind of a thing.
Thank you, Governor.
Isn't it amazing how kids of this generation, you play this song for 16-year-olds now when they sing along. They know this song. It's kind of timeless.
Play this in Germany, in Berlin. I was at, every Berliner knows it. It's weird.
Yeah. Maybe someday West Virginia will have a football team there at the University of West Virginia.
Oh, this is terrible. Of course we have a football team.
Oh, that's right. You play in the Big 12. I apologize.
Don't listen to him, Governor.
Hey, listen, backyard brawl September 13th against Pitt. That's the big game.
Well done, Governor. See, he had the date right there on the back
There
of
you
his.
go.
Appreciate it,
pro.
Governor Morrissey. Thanks for joining
All
us.
right. Take
It's
care, guys.
7:45.
WMAL's Vince Colonnese, weekdays at noon on 105.9 WMAL, making sense of the news.
It is 7:50 now. We've got a fascinating story out of the Fairfax County School Board as the superintendent of schools, who's doing a bang-up job, by the way, last I checked. Boy,
Great.
well, actually, that's not true at all. The grades are failing, and the assessment scores are down, and literacy rates are down, and basic skills and understanding. Although their gender studies program is doing very, very, crown jewel
Solid.
of the Northern Virginia school. Anyway, the superintendent of schools now has a personal bodyguard. Cost to the taxpayers $143,000. Why does Michelle Reed, who by the way makes $424,000 annually, gets a car allowance? That's more money, by the way. Her salary is higher than Donald Trump's salary, which he donates, of course. But
Yes, of course.
and now she gets a security detail, executive protection agent is what they're calling it. New job posting. This is apparently because she feels that she's under some sort of physical threat.
Yes,
so she
from
needs to have a
parents, no
bodyguard.
doubt. I mean, these are the school boards that thought they were under threat when parents complained about COVID shutdowns, right? When Scott Smith went to the Loudoun County School Board and complained because his daughter had been sexually assaulted, right? He was thrown in jail. He was arrested right there at the school board meeting. These are the school board members who detest parents, don't want them anywhere near them, and consider, going to the podium and speaking to be disrespectful and dangerous. Words of violence, Larry.
Asra Nomani, our pal here, friend of the program, did this reporting for Fox News, and it's stunning. $143,000 is the pay that's on the job search website that you can get. Although now that the story has been published for over 24 hours, if you go back to the job postings at Brass Ring, it doesn't exist, so it's been deleted. She also checked with other school districts. The superintendent of schools in Chicago does not have a personal security detail. But Michelle Reed, as they're referring to her, Queen Reed in Fairfax County, demanded personal security. Or, listen, we don't know that she's demanded it, but we know that the board approved or was willing to put the job posting up for this executive. That's a bodyguard, basically a bodyguard.
Yeah. You always make fun of me for saying this, but I mean, the nerve.
The nerve of these people.
The nerve of these people. I mean, don't forget, not only is it because she hates parents and she doesn't want the unwashed masses coming her way, but it's also, these are failing schools.
Yes. And
really schools in crisis. Schools that turn off the mics and turn off the cameras during school board meetings. This is how they feel about parents.
And she just got a pay raise, by the way.
Oh, yeah.
Up from $380,000 to $425,000 in a brand new 4-year deal. She gets $12,000 a year for her car. And she now wants a security detail, or at least one. Which, by the way, I actually got some text messages from some law enforcement and security professionals last night as this story broke. And they said, this is not actually how you provide personal security. One person doesn't do it. That's not how you do it. So this is all for show. This is to make her feel very important.
Yep.
But that's not, if you truly do need personal security, you don't just bring in one person. on a salary to just sort of, tail you wherever you go or hang out with you and push down the screaming masses who are dying to get your autograph or whatever. It's outrageous. And we'd love to know, by the way, since this is a public official, what are the actual threats that have been assessed here?
Yes, do tell.
What's the threat assessment that she's worried about, that she needs to have a personal security detail? I've got a better idea. While she's worrying about her own personal security, if she really is that terrified, she should maybe quit and go into another school system that is less dangerous than Fairfax County, Virginia. And if she does stay in her job, instead of worrying about her security, maybe she should worry about the fact that she's in noncompliance with the Department of Education for violations of Title IX.
There you go.
That's probably more important. It's 7:54.